What if I told you that the reality you perceive is nothing more than a meticulously designed illusion, a relentless mirror of the most intimate architecture of your being? What if the chaos, limitation, and lack you experience were not accidents of fate, but the precise manifestation of the codes engraved in your own unexamined consciousness? Humanity has wandered for centuries under the veil of Maya, believing itself to be victims of an indifferent universe, when in truth, each of you is the gravitational center, the silent orchestrator of its own material symphony. The time of the veil is running out. We have accessed the manuscripts that for millennia were guarded under the secrecy of the 33rd degree, the hermetic knowledge reserved for those willing to pay the price of total internal restructuring. What is about to be revealed is the authoritative map for bending reality, a guide that negates the need for external supplication and returns to you the scepter of your dimensional sovereignty. This is not a mere motivational speech. It is the transference of frequencies, the encoding of the operative truth that transforms the seeker into the magician. If you have reached this threshold, it is not by chance. Your vibration has brought you here. You are ready to cease being the clay and become the potter. Prepare to unravel the principles of manifestation. Understand how time itself bends before pure intention, and master the supreme art, self-mastery, to seal this initiatory pact, to declare before the cosmos that your soul is ready to receive this gnosis. Pause this sacred moment. Grant your vital energy to the propagation of this truth by tapping the thumbs up sign. Subscribe to this channel so that the continuity of knowledge will never be denied you. And, more importantly, decree your intention in the abyss of commentary, etching it like an indelible seal in the ether. I am seeking the truth. The journey has begun. The first operative law of the universe, the cornerstone of hermetic knowledge, and the central secret of the 33rd degree lies in the understanding of reality as a mirror. This transcends mere metaphor. It is a physical and dimensional description of how the macrocosm intrinsically relates to the microcosm. The law of correspondence is not an abstract principle, but the fundamental mechanism of manifestation. The universe, in its infinite and impersonal wisdom, has no opinions. It simply responds. It acts as a holographic screen of gigantic proportions, projecting outward in the form of circumstances, people, and events, the exact vibrational state that resides within your inner core. This inner state is the complex fusion of your dominant thoughts, your underlying beliefs, the paradigm you have accepted as irrefutable truth, and, crucially, the persistent emotional charge you emanate. The arcane sages understood that the dense matter we call reality is not static. It is condensed consciousness, a deferred response to the energy that originated within the psyche. Therefore, the exterior can never be directly corrected. Attempting to manipulate the reflection without altering the source is the fundamental error of the profane seeker, the fruitless quest to move shadows without turning on the light. Reality is the perfect diagnosis, an instantaneous, though sometimes delayed, feedback on the quality of your internal dialogue. Every obstacle, every synchronous encounter, every door that opens or closes is an unequivocal signal that forces you to look within and recognize that the screen only shows what is already projected from the secret cinematograph of your soul. True mastery lies not in changing the world, but in rewriting the script projected from the inner sanctuary. The reflection mechanism operates through the architecture of the subconscious, that vast, silent ocean that manages 90% of your existence without the intervention of the analytical mind. The subconscious does not discern between what is a real memory, a projected fear, or an intention held in faith. It simply accepts the command with the greatest emotional charge. It is core beliefs, those roots buried in childhood or cemented by repetitive trauma. that act as the primary lenses through which perception is filtered and manifestation is orchestrated. If the inner vibrational core holds the belief of scarcity, for example, the mirror of reality will be forced to orchestrate events, block paths, and create circumstances that reinforce that scarcity, ensuring that external experience validates the internal programming. The life energy that should be used for deliberate manifestation is consumed by sustaining and defending that limiting paradigm. The universe is an obedient servant, not a judge, and its sole function is to offer you more of what you have chosen to focus on and, more profoundly, what you have chosen to believe. The difficulty with bending reality lies not in the complexity of the law, but in the stubborn blindness of the ego, which refuses to acknowledge itself as the source of the pattern. Liberation begins when the initiate accepts that there is no outside to be combated, but rather an inside that must be meticulously restructured. Only by healing the root belief is the mirror forced to alter its reflection, transforming the external landscape organically and without forced effort. Emotion, that emotion or energy in motion, is the primary catalyst and accelerator in the mirror process. Thought is the architectural template, the defined intention, but emotion is the rocket fuel that gives it the frequency necessary to solidify into matter. It is not enough to think positively. If that positive idea is accompanied by an emotional resonance of doubt, underlying fear or unworthiness, the composite vibration emitted into the quantum field is a mixed signal, resulting in erratic or zero manifestation. Reality, like a mirror, does not respond to the words you say, but to the frequency that you are. Hermetic knowledge establishes that the state of being is the sum total of what you think, feel, and believe is possible. When perfect alignment is achieved, when thought, clear intention, synchronizes with emotion, the certainty of faith, and belief, unconditional acceptance, the time delay between intention and manifestation is dramatically reduced, approaching the ideal of instant manifestation. This perfect internal congruence is what the ancients called the alchemical crucible. It is the point where individual consciousness merges with source consciousness, and in that instant of vibrational unity, the universe has no choice but to deliver the desired reflection immediately. Sustained emotion is the secret language that speaks directly to the field of infinite possibilities, dictating what potential must collapse from wave to particle. Often, the seeker looks into the mirror of their life and perceives distortion, feeling that their conscious efforts to change reality are not reciprocated. This apparent imperfection in the reflection is, in fact, a sign of the purity of the mirror itself. Outer dissonance is the faithful echo of inner dissonance. When one experiences frustration, resistance, or stagnation, reality is simply reflecting unresolved internal conflicts. Shadow work. Conscious intentions, what you want to manifest, are being sabotaged by subconscious programs, what you believe you deserve or what you fear. For example, you may fervently desire abundance, but if your belief system harbors the fear that success will separate you from your loved ones, the mirror will manifest a cycle of approaching success followed by self-sabotage, maintaining the status quo of the limiting belief. The initiate's task is not to fight the outer reflection, but to undergo the deep introspection that reveals these shadows. The 33rd degree demands brutal honesty. Until the shadow is integrated and the limiting belief is consciously dismantled, the mirror will continue to show the pattern. Reality then becomes a rigorous master, using pain and pattern repetition to force you into self-observation. The key to bending reality is not willpower, but the vibrational coherence obtained through the purification of the emotional and mental core. The supreme understanding of the mirror leads us to self-mastery. If the universe is a perfect reflection, then the only lever of power we truly possess is absolute mastery over our inner state. The inner alchemist knows that they must not waste energy reacting to external forms, the reflection, but rather focus all their discipline on sculpting the quality of their consciousness, the source. This entails the ceaseless practice of presence, mental vigilance, and the intentional cultivation of higher emotions, regardless of current circumstances. When the initiate deliberately chooses gratitude, certainty, and love, even amidst the chaos projected by the old paradigm, they are sending an irrevocable command to the mirror. The law of inertia of the universe guarantees that, if this frequency is sustained with pure intention and unwavering faith, the material reflection must eventually collapse to align with the new master frequency. The mirror teaches us total sovereignty. It shows us that control lies not in negotiating with the external world, but in disciplining the inner garden, ensuring that only the seeds of the desired manifestation are planted, nourished with the emotion of certainty and protected from the weeds of doubt. This is the knowledge that frees the initiate from the wheel of reactive karma, elevating them to the position of conscious creator. The external world will cease to be your prison and become your personal canvas. But how is this self-elevation achieved? What discipline must the neophyte exercise to maintain this impeccable internal coherence that the mirror demands? The answer lies in the most powerful vibration of all, the master frequency that allows you to access the highest planes of manifestation, the key to the knowledge of the 33rd degree, the indestructible power of consciousness. Reality as a mirror is not a poetic metaphor, but the fundamental enunciation of the Hermetic law of correspondence, applied to the plane of material manifestation. The visible universe acts as an immediate feedback system, projecting three-dimensional holograms that correspond with millimeter precision to the algebraic sum of our internal frequencies. It is not a matter of what we consciously desire, but of what we are vibrationally at the level of the core of belief. Every circumstance you go through, every person you attract, and every wall you encounter are not random events or divine judgments, but the materialized echo of your predominant inner state. The initiate must understand that the outside is always, and without exception, the deferred end product of the psychic projection machine operating within, a relentless mechanism that does not discriminate between lofty desire and profound fear. The difficulty in this understanding lies in the massive interference of the ego and the subconscious shadow. The neophyte focuses on sending out superficial positive thoughts, the fog of desire, while below the threshold of consciousness, the limiting belief system forged by ancestral traumas and social egregores continues executing the master program of scarcity or unworthiness. The mirror, in its brutal honesty, reflects not the ego's layer of intention, but the non-negotiable truth of the underlying vibration. Internal alchemy, therefore, does not consist in visualizing a result, but in the radical purification of these dark codes, the nigredo and albedo of the psyche, a painful process that requires facing the most feared projections in the external world. What irritates or limits you most externally is the perfect mirror-like manifestation of a facet of your own psyche that cries out for integration. The power of consciousness operates through the emotional anchor. Thought is the architectural template, but emotion is the vibrational cement that gives solidity to manifestation. Most beings operate within the reactive spectrum of lower emotions: fear, guilt, shame, unfulfilled desire. When these frequencies are dominant, the mirror is forced to reflect scenarios that justify and perpetuate this internal state. If the being lives in constant fear of loss, the universe mobilizes circumstances to present the loss, ensuring vibrational coherence. Mastery does not consist in manipulating circumstances, but in elevating and sustaining a master frequency, love, gratitude, certainty, with such noetic discipline that old emotional structures, karmic mud, disintegrate due to lack of resonance, forcing the mirror to reorganize its elements. The ancient masters referred to this reality as the Great Illusion, or Maya, not because the world was non-existent, but because its perceived nature is purely secondary. The world is real only in terms of being the hologram of the self. The mirror of reality is the speculum anime, the mirror of the soul, a teaching device designed to compel the incarnated spirit to acknowledge its own authorship. When the initiate assumes total sovereignty over their internal state, the figure of the external culprit, whether a boss, an enemy, or fate, disappears, and the perception of life is transformed from a battlefield to a canvas of self-creation. This knowledge is the threshold that separates the seeker from the master, for it confers an absolute responsibility that few are willing to bear. The true act of manifestation is not a request to the universe, but a declaration of being. The mirror simply reflects the light you project. If the light is unstable, fragmented by doubt, or tainted by inner insecurity, the reflection will be chaotic and frustrating. Only when the coherence of heart and mind is absolute and the intention vibrates in perfect alignment with the essential truth of spirit, does the reflection become pristine and immediate, dissolving the time factor from the equation of manifestation. Alchemy, therefore, demands constant vigilance of the prevailing vibration. But if reality is a mere reflection, how do we discern the authenticity of pure intention from the noise generated by the body's reactive memory? The answer lies in a deep understanding of the mechanism of polarity and the principle that governs the balance between shadow and light. The knowledge of the 33rd degree is not a badge of hierarchical merit, but the operative function of unified consciousness. It represents the point where the initiate ceases to seek a source outside themselves and understands that they are the active monad, the immutable motor of the existential drama. The power of this consciousness lies in its ability to sustain a truth independent of surrounding sensory evidence, what the ancients called the eye that sees without the light of the sun. It is the gnosis that dissolves the veil of Maya, revealing that the structure of material reality is not rigid, but a malleable matrix, a field of resonance that strictly obeys the vibratory quality of focused attention. One who reaches this threshold operates as an architect of the inner cosmos, using the sacred fire, the unbreakable will, to recalibrate the projected holographic patterns, understanding that the outside is merely the dilation of the internal wave. This level of consciousness operates directly on the principle of wave collapse. Simple observation, devoid of judgment and emotional attachment, forces infinite quantum probabilities to solidify into a defined experience. Here, attention is not passive, but an arrow charged with pure intention, uninterrupted by fragmented desire. The ancients codified this mechanism in the concept of the Eye of Horus, a state of total vigilance where every act of focus is, ontologically, an act of creation. Most of humanity lives in reaction to external stimuli. The master in this degree lives in creative anticipation, knowing that time is only the dilation between their conscious decision and the manifestation of the reflex. Alchemical training focuses on refining this arrow of attention until it becomes perfectly coherent, eliminating the parasitic noise of the reactive ego and corporeal memory that systematically sabotage the purity of the original signal. Assuming the power of consciousness inevitably implies accepting full authorship of one's own shadow without excuses or transferences. If absolutely everything is a manifestation of consciousness, then suffering, limitation, and stagnation are not external punishments, but feedback programs generated by deep-rooted belief systems, fueled by the personal and collective unconscious. This is the secret of the serpent coiled on the tree of life. The energy that seemingly destroys and paralyzes is exactly the same energy that creates and uplifts, once tamed and ascended through the higher centers of being. The 33rd degree symbolizes mastery of the inner crucible, the psychic alchemy of transmuting lead, primal instincts, unresolved wounds, and historical trauma into gold, the incorruptible wisdom and sovereignty of the spirit. It implies liberation from the yoke of the internal archons, those limiting psychic entities that keep the perception of the self captive in the prison of duality. The most powerful tool of this sovereignty is not the intensification of effort, but absolute silence. To operate with the efficiency of the 33rd degree, the mind must not be filled with internal dialogues or reactive justifications, but must operate as a pure void, the Ein Sof, ready to receive the formless light. Only in this stillness can pure intention, the voice of the Immaculate Spirit, be distinguished from frantic desire, the voice of the fearful ego. Impeccability, as taught by the Toltec and Eastern esoteric lineages, becomes the operative law of this higher consciousness. It is not a trivial moral perfection, but the perfect quantum alignment between what is thought, what is felt, and what is projected into the field of reality. Any fissure or incongruity in this coherence returns the initiate to the cycle of duality and fragmented manifestation, because consciousness operates without error, faithfully reflecting the internal matrix. However, this individual mastery, achieved with esoteric rigor, faces the enormous challenge of vibrational consensus. The initiate, although sovereign within the sphere of their personal cosmos, must interact with the noosphere, the collective mental field of humanity, which operates as a dense ocean of fear, inertia, and massive limiting beliefs. Achieving conscious and unaltered manifestation within this sea of dissonance requires more than pure intention. It demands the ability to create an impregnable bubble of resonance, a toroidal field of extremely high frequency that filters and repels external psychic contaminations without generating resistance. The fundamental question then becomes, how is this sovereignty of consciousness anchored in the physical fabric of time and space without being absorbed by the gravity of the collective illusion? The answer, encoded in the ancient Egyptian mysteries, lies in a rigorous understanding of the sacred architecture of the body and the master numbers that govern its internal functioning and its ability to act as an antenna and transformer of the Christ consciousness. Conscious manifestation is not an act of fortuitous magic, but the geometric application of immutable laws. The first axiom is vibration, and its correlate, alignment. Everything in the cosmos is frequency, and the secret lies in modulating one's own electromagnetic field so that it harmoniously matches the desired reality. This requires absolute coherence between logos, thought, and pathos, emotion, where the internal vehicle, the personal Merkaba, must rotate in perfect phase. If the thought postulates abundance, but the body retains the cellular memory of lack, the frequency seal is weak and the projection is nullified. The adept must transform themselves into the tuning fork that resonates with the higher octave before the object of their desire materializes in the Chronos paradigm, understanding that cause and effect are, in essence, simultaneous on the timeless plane of being. Intention and focus act as the compass and the anchor. Intention is not a mere desire, it is a command of consciousness, the coded word that the cosmic architect imparts to raw material. It must be as precise as a mathematical algorithm, devoid of emotional or moral ambiguity. Focus, meanwhile, is the fiery quality that sustains intention in the face of the entropy of daily thought. It requires the activation of the Eye of Horus, the ability to sustain the internal image without flickering, concentrating psychic energy, the Ruah, on a single point until it collapses the field of potentiality. This concentration is not a forced tension, but a meditative immersion where the subject merges with the desired object, eliminating the illusory distance between the observer and the observed. Internal alchemy requires the imagination to rise from the realm of fantasy to that of archetypal perception. Imagination is the language of the soul in dialogue with the creative matrix. It is not about seeing the outcome, but rather about feeling the structure of reality manifested in the absolute present. This visualization is exponentially enhanced by the supreme catalyst, gratitude. Gratitude, practiced before physical reception, is the vibrational confirmation that the gift has already been delivered by the universe. It is the joyful acceptance of potential existence. By operating from this state of anticipated plenitude, the adept nullifies the linear time of waiting and attracts the object by the law of direct resonance, like a magnet that does not ask, but simply is. The bridge between the etheric matrix and physical manifestation is sustained by faith and persistence. Faith, in this context, is the immovable certainty that transcends all empirical proof. It is absolute trust in the law and in one's own divinity as co-creator. It is not hope, which implies doubt, but deep inner knowing. This faith must be continually irrigated by persistence, which is not the stubbornness of egoic will, but the rhythmic maintenance of the high frequency, the disciplined refusal to give in to the bombardment of doubt or the transient evidence of the physical world. Persistence is the constant heat of the alchemical Athanor, ensuring that the process of transmutation does not stop until the complete solidification of the spiritual gold. Finally, the apex and paradox of manifestation are encrypted in detachment and surrender. Having injected intention with precision, alignment, and faith, the initiate must perform the most difficult act, letting go of the outcome. Detachment is not indifference, but the liberation of egoic attachment to how and when. By surrendering control, the adept entrusts the outcome to the higher order of the cosmos, allowing energy to flow along the path of least resistance. Any attachment to particular form or specific time interferes with the field and reduces potency. This act of surrender is the final test of faith. The seed is planted and covered with soil, and only trust in the germination process ensures the harvest. Detachment dissolves the gravity of need and opens the door to perfect manifestation. But even the perfect manifestation of individual intention does not guarantee permanence without first conquering the true nature of the substrate upon which reality is built, matter. We have addressed the design, the engine, and the anchoring, but we still need to unravel the genetic code of the canvas. How do we decode the patterns of density and resistance that the physical body itself imposes on sovereign consciousness, the fundamental substrate of all manifestation? The true Athanor, where spirit and matter merge, resides exclusively in the inner state of the initiate. It is not external rituals or empty words that dictate reality, but the complex holographic web woven by thought, belief, emotion, and vibration. Thought acts as the initial spark, the mental architecture that outlines the archetype. It is ethereal, volatile, and on its own lacks the mass necessary to interact with the density of the physical plane. It is belief that gives it gravitational weight. Belief is the chisel that sculpts the foundational matrix, transforming the ephemeral idea into a persistent mental structure. Belief establishes the law of the personal universe. It is the base code that dictates what is possible and what is not within the adept's field of consciousness. However, even the firmest belief remains an inert theory if not injected with the most potent catalyst in the cosmos, emotion. Emotion is emotion, energy in motion. It is the electrical charge that magnetizes the belief template, giving it speed and resonance. The heart, not the brain, is the true magnetic command center. When thought and belief align with a high-frequency emotion, gratitude, unconditional love, serene certainty, manifestation accelerates exponentially as the individual stops asking and begins to radiate the state of being they have already received. Emotion is the silent validator that the universe reads. Faith is only potent when it is viscerally felt, turning intention into a quantum imperative. The culmination of this internal process is expressed in vibration, the energetic signature emitted by the body and which interacts directly with the unified field. Vibration is the frequency resulting from the harmonic or disharmonic synthesis between thought, belief, and emotion. The initiate is essentially a walking antenna, a transducer that translates their internal state into scalar waves that reshape the environment. If the internal state is chaotic, filled with fear or doubt, low frequency, the body tenses, the field contracts, and the universe can only reflect patterns of resistance and conflict, tuning into scarcity. In contrast, the vibration of sovereignty, which operates from the pleroma, inner fullness, radiates as a clear tonality that cannot be interfered with by external densities. This science of internal coherence is the basis of spiritual alchemy, the true opus magnum revealed in the Gnostic and Hermetic texts. The goal of the initiate is not to manipulate the world, but to refine the prima materia of their own internal states, which are inherently volatile and reactive. Thought is mercuriality, emotion is sulfur, and belief is salt. Transmutation occurs when the adept manages to stabilize and elevate this triad to the point of immutability, reaching a constant vibration that is independent of external circumstances. This state, sometimes referred to as apatheia or the untainted mind, is the philosopher's stone manifested in the body of the being, capable of turning any lead of experience into the gold of understanding. The most common error lies in inner dissonance, wanting a result, thought, without believing it is feasible, belief, or believing in abundance while experiencing anxiety and haste, emotion. This triple misalignment not only cancels intention, but also generates severe energetic depletion, as the internal field is in civil war, transmitting an incoherent message to the cosmos. The supreme discipline of the adept is rigorous self-observation to identify the subconscious belief patterns that undermine conscious intention, using negative emotion not as a signal of failure, but as an accurate barometer of vibrational incoherence. True mastery demands that every particle of consciousness vibrate in unison with the manifested desire. But vibration, though essentially ethereal, does not reside in a vacuum. It is inexorably anchored to the physical form, to the vehicle we have accepted as our temple and our limiter. If the inner state is the symphony, the body is the instrument. How can a perfect melody be played if the instrument is out of tune, its finest and most fundamental string, the breath, ignored or constricted by material density? The role of silence, presence, and intuition constitute the fundamental tripod upon which the altar of the inner being rests. If intention is the map and emotion the fuel, these three elements are the instruments of navigation. Silence is not the physical absence of sound, but the abolition of inner noise, the taming of the mare magnum of incessant thoughts. It is the state of no mind, or dhyana, where consciousness withdraws from the circuit of reactivity and finds its imperturbable core. It is in this self-induced emptiness that the parasitic vibration of the ego ceases and the true master frequency of the soul can resonate without distortion. This cessation is active and demanding. It requires the conscious use of the breath as a primordial anchor, forcing the mind to surrender to the rhythmic cadence of the physical body. The presence, for its part, is the functional manifestation of that silence. It is the unbreakable anchorage in the ik et nunc, the here and now. Vital energy is catastrophically dispersed through the ramification of memory and anticipation. The adept expends 90% of their creative force reliving past grievances or weaving anxious fictions of the future. The presence is the only tool that seals these chronological leaks. When consciousness fully inhabits the intersection of time, the power of intention is concentrated into a unified laser. This is the alchemy of the moment, taking the density of experience and processing it without contaminating the internal vessel, maintaining the chosen vibrational state regardless of external drama. From the symbiotic union between silence, immaculate space, and presence, the indivisible focus, emerges intuition. Intuition is the language of superconsciousness, the voice of the higher self, or monad, which communicates in symbols and immediate certainty, bypassing the slow and fallible processes of logic and dialectics of the lower intellect. Symbolized by the Eye of Horus, or the Ajna chakra, intuition is the compass that operates outside the spectrum of the five sensory prisons. It is the knowledge that you already know, even if your rational mind hasn't yet deciphered the map. Only when egoic chatter is silenced and attention is fully present can the subtlety of intuition break through, offering the most efficient and aligned route to manifestation. This triad is the key to conscious self-deification. The ancient Hermetic masters knew that to precipitate physical or spiritual gold, the alchemist must become the perfect catalyst. A silence forges the crucible. Presence ignites and maintains the flame of the inner fire, the ignis sapiens. And intuition is the secret manual that dictates the exact temperature and time of cooking. Without silence, the fire is turbulent and consumes the raw material. Without presence, the heat disperses and the reaction stops. Without intuition, the mixture is random and the result accidental. Mastery demands that these three states not be separate skills, but a sustained condition of existence. The adept who manages to merge their consciousness in this triple state, living in the presence, operating from silence, and being guided by intuition, transforms their energetic field into an inviolable sanctuary. Doubts, fears, and external influences bounce off this shield of vibrational coherence, unable to penetrate the purity of purpose. This is the true awakening of latent power, the reversal of the energetic flow, where life is no longer drawn from circumstances, but rather the being radiates its own reality. But this irradiation has inevitable consequences, for the projection of such inner sovereignty cannot passively coexist with the matrix of limitation. When the light is turned on, the shadows, by reflex, stir. And so, as we solidify the inner temple, we must prepare for the next stage of the journey, the inevitable confrontation with the mask of reality and the awakening of the gatekeepers. We have come full circle. The soul's compass points unequivocally inward, where silence, presence, and intuition forge the alchemy of self-mastery. The revelation I promised is now yours. The linear reality perceived by the masses is the most skillfully guarded mirage of the matrix of limitation. But the adept who achieves internal vibrational coherence discovers the true universal mechanics. Synchronicity is not magic, but the advanced physics of pure consciousness. It is the inevitable language of the universe when it is compelled to respond to the impeccability of its internal alignment. Every event that the linear mind labels as coincidence is, in fact, a telepathic and perfectly causal response of the unified field to the frequency you hold. When you cease the internal struggle, the universe ceases external resistance. Doors open of their own accord, paths are effortlessly cleared, and the map of your destiny is written with the ink of your sustained intention. You no longer beg for results. You conduct the cosmic orchestra, and synchronicity is the applause. And regarding the most formidable construct, time, the linear arrow that flows from past to future, is the primary tool of confinement. You have learned that the future is not a pre-written destiny, but the harvest you sow in the absolute presence. The past is malleable, subject to reinterpretation and healing that occurs in the now. The illusion of temporal progression is what keeps humanity captive in the karmic cycle of delayed cause and effect. Transcending means recognizing that the past and future are only dimensions of the eternal present, constructs entirely dependent on the focus of your sovereign consciousness. You are not bound by time. You are the weaver of time. By living in the presence, you draw upon the energy of the timeline at will, and that is true immortality. The ultimate enlightenment is this. The answer is not in accumulating more knowledge, nor in seeking a guru or a portal outside of yourself. The power you crave, the peace you beg, the reality you seek to manipulate, already resides complete and perfect within the core of your being. You are the source of creation, not the vessel waiting to be filled. The journey of ascension ends and begins at the same point, in the inescapable declaration of the absolute sovereignty of your existence. This sovereignty demands the courage to operate outside the collective script, to be a beacon that, through sheer coherence, destabilizes the shadows around you. Now, you must act upon this truth. Knowledge without application is stagnation. I ask you, and I want your clear, precise, and vibrant answer here below. If the universe is bound to respond to the perfection of its internal coherence, and time is its molding clay, what is the first perfect and synchronistic manifestation that you will demand unfold in your reality today? Declare it, name it, notice it. This knowledge cannot be withheld. It is a frequency that must be transmitted without delay to elevate the collective field of dormant humanity. Fulfill your cosmic service now, for the expansion of truth is a vibrational responsibility of every adept. First, decree your own expansion and that of this message by sharing this portal with 3 souls ready to awaken. Second, anchor your frequency permanently in this line of ascension by subscribing to this channel of revealed truth. Third, keep the surveillance on and the connection active by activating the sacred notification bell so that nothing is missed. The inner temple is erected. Now we must navigate the outer world, which will reflect our newly awakened power. The final, most critical phase of this journey awaits you immediately. Meeting the Guardians and the complete unmasking of the Matrix is no longer optional. Click now on the portal that opens before you. Your ascension accepts no pauses. Forward.